What is going on, everyone? How's your 2020 treating you so far? Today's video is about immigration. Immigration has been a hot topic for about the last 3 years. It's in the news, it's on Twitter, it's in the comment section of my videos. I get emails about it. I get questions about immigration all the time from people getting ready to move to the United States. When people are seeking employment and citizenship, they almost always choose communities where they have family or friends or their type of people. Certain areas of the country continue to attract greater numbers of immigrants than others. This has gone on since before the United States was even an actual country. Social geography is an amazing subject. I could make a 2-hour video on the subject and barely scratch the surface. So, what is a green card holder? It's an immigrant who has gone through the process and is permitted to live and work in the United States indefinitely, as well as serve in the military. In this video, we will look at the 10 highest per capita states of green card holders and what country the largest percentage of those green card holders come from. So let's take a look at what states are on the list. Number 10 has got to be Number 10, Washington. Washington has a good share of immigrants landing on their shores every year. Almost none of them are Canadian. The only reason Canadians ever come to Washington is to watch a real football game when the Seahawks play. And that's because football in Canada blows. What kind of league lets two teams have the same name? Rough Riders. I can't believe one team thought that was a good name. At least one of the Rough Rider teams folded, so now there's down to one, but still. The most common country of origin in Washington is Mexico, making up almost 14% of the population. Probably the most Mexican town is Toppenish in the south centralist portion of the state near Yakima. Now, the last time this was updated was 2016, and that's going to be throughout this list. They're going to update it again next year. But in 2016, Washington had about 350 green card residents for every 100,000 residents. The Mexican population in Washington is about 240,000 residents, a total of 3.31% or thereabouts. The immigrant population in total, all immigrants, is about 13.7. That's the 12th highest in the nation. Number 9, Texas. Yes, the Lone Star State is not just filled with Texans. They have their fair share of green card holders. To be honest, being so close to the border with Mexico, I thought this number would be higher. But if you already don't know, Texas has a large, proud Mexican population. Almost 10% of Texas is green card holders from Mexico. They also have a high number of undocumented workers from Mexico. There's no real way to track that. I know they have guesstimations and estimates, but I'm just going to stick with the known numbers right now. The entire known immigrant population of Texas is about 17%. The Mexican population is one of the best things about Texas. The food, the culture, the people, they're just amazing. Texas has about 363.6 green card holders for every 100,000 residents. Number 8, Maryland. Immigrants from El Salvador are one of Baltimore area's largest foreign-born population. Many Salvadorians arrived decades ago under a federal program that allowed them to flee the Civil War and later 2 major earthquakes they had there that pretty much wrecked the country. The largest immigration wave occurred as a result of the Salvadorian Civil War in the 1980s. About 20 to 30% of the Salvadorian population immigrated. They just left the country. They'd had enough. By 2008, there were 1.1 million Salvadorian immigrants in the United States, but the program could soon come to an end, or it kind of already has to a degree, but still. Famous Salvadorian, he's actually from Los Angeles, but both his parents are part of one of those waves. Efren Ramirez, he's an actor. Nobody knows who he is, unless you know anything about Napoleon Dynamite. He played Pedro, actually. There are about 377 green card holders per every 100,000 residents in Maryland. The entire immigrant population is about 15%. That's the 9th highest in the country. Number 7, Nevada. Nevada, believe it or not, has a very large immigrant population. About 20% of the state is here with a green card. And like most Western states, the largest population of immigrants is from Mexico. If you want to see any proof of that, walk down the strip any night and look at all the card slappers and the dudes selling water bottles on the street. By the way, those tend to be used water bottles. They filled up with a hose at the gas station and threw them in a cooler and sold them to you like they're new bottled water, filtered and all that. The only thing filtered that is the Vegas air as it left the hose and hit the bottle. Buyer beware. There are about 383 people living in Nevada with green cards for every 100,000 residents. Nevada only has about 3 million residents, and of that population, about 220,000 hail from Mexico. Number 6, Massachusetts. Massachusetts is sort of the original immigration state. After all, they are called the Pilgrim State. The Pilgrims were the first group of refugees to land in the New World. Pilgrims were people. They aren't just characters that 4 or 5 second graders play in a Thanksgiving program at an elementary school. I played a pilgrim. and I'm bitter to this day about it. Wanted to be an Indian so bad. They actually took my lines away from me because I sounded so angry when I said them during rehearsal. Frickin' nuns. That was my first of many run-ins I had with the Penguins at St. James School in Redondo Beach over the years. Ugh, women. Anyway, the Pilgrims were a group of Puritans who founded Plymouth Rock in 1620. These days, the most common country of origin is China. You know, if I was a Chinese guy living in America, I would get a tattoo that says "Made in China" on the back of my neck. That would be great. Anyway, there are about 420 green card carrying members of the Massachusetts population per every 100,000. Massachusetts has about 420 green card residents for every 100,000. Number 5, Hawaii. Believe it or not, people seem to want to live in paradise. Hawaii, to a lot of people, is paradise, so it's no wonder a lot of people immigrating to the US end up in Hawaii. The most common country of origin? The Philippines. And the Hawaiians I know really aren't too keen on this most of the time. But it's also my experience, this isn't unusual. I know quite a few people from different Pacific islands, and they all seem to have a bone to pick with some other island and the people that are from there. When I was working at Nike, these girls were talking about this other girl that's from another Micronesian island. They're from Micronesia, some other Micronesian island this girl's from, and they were talking bad about her, and I was like, so what's wrong with where she's from? And they're all, that's not a good island. I'm all, okay, what's wrong with it? And they're all, that's the no shoe wearing fish for your dinner type island. And I was all, besides sounding like really nice, what's wrong with that? And the one girl goes, well, to us, that's like backwoods. I was like, oh, okay, I get it. But anyway, Hawaii has about 1.5 million residents, and of them, about 116,000 are Filipino. They have 457 green card residents for every 100,000 residents on the islands of Hawaii. The total immigration population of Hawaii is almost 19%. Number 4, California. The Golden State has been attracting immigrants since some dude found a shiny yellow rock at Sutter's Mill. California, being number 4, has probably forced a bunch of people to spit whatever they're drinking onto their computer screen. They're the ones that leave comments on every negative state video that California is the worst at everything and they should be number 1. You can find them in the comments because they all use the same phrases. They say things like California, liberal hellhole, human feces on the streets, quit voting Democrat. They're easy to spot. It's great to have an opinion, but come on, mix it up. Maybe use your own words. The most common country of origin for California immigrants is Mexico. Surprise, surprise. I mean, Mexico is right there, so it's obvious. And you get the best tacos in California, so it's really obvious. There are 337.4 green card residents for every 100,000 in California. The immigrant population, total immigrant population, is about 28%. The Mexican population is just a little over 4 million in California, which isn't much when you take into account that California has almost 40 million residents. Number 3, New Jersey. At number 3, we have the Garden State, New Jersey. New Jersey is a state in the mid-Atlantic region of the northeastern United States that most people think of as New York's younger, dumber brother. And I guess people in India haven't heard that because they migrate here by the plane loads. The most common country of origin for immigrants to New Jersey is from India. They average about 560 green cards per every 100,000 residents in New Jersey. The entire immigrant population is about 23%. That's the third highest in the United States. There is just about 9 million residents in New Jersey, and of those 9 million, 250,000 are from India. Number 2, Florida. The Sunshine State and its 22 million residents is the second state on this list with the most green card residents. Florida is filled to the rim with Cubans, and that's not a bad thing. Great food, great people, great culture. At least the southern section is filled with them. Many of the refugees from Cuba came to get away from Fidel Castro's communist regime back in the 60s and 70s. They all came to Miami and the Freedom Tower, where the federal government used the facility to process, document, and provide medical and dental services for the newcomers. As a result, the Freedom Tower was also called Ellis Island of the South. The Cuban population of Florida is just under 1 million residents. The total population of Florida is about 22 million, so that's a solid percentage of them. The total immigrant population of Florida is 20%. And number 1. New York. The Empire State lands at the top spot. If you've ever visited New York City, this is probably a little obvious. New York has been taking people in for a very long time. If you came from Europe from, let's say, 1700 to yesterday, chances are you landed in New York, especially New York City. New York City, for most of its existence, was broken down by ethnic neighborhoods. I read a book about Irish living in New York City around 1900. I wish I could remember the name, but it went on to explain how different immigrants would have to avoid neighborhoods while navigating the city, sometimes going, almost a mile out of the way just to stay out of a certain neighborhood. It was like you didn't want to be Irish walking through an Italian neighborhood, and how the Germans wouldn't go through other neighborhoods, and that was normal for them back in the day. These days, the most common country of origin is the Dominican Republic. There are 500,000 Dominicans living in New York, and a vast majority of them living in the New York City metro area. And please, don't correct me and say it's Puerto Ricans. That island is a U.S. territory. They don't need green cards. There are 660 green card residents for every 100,000 in New York. Alright, so that's my list. I hope you guys got some information out of it. Hope it was entertaining. This is kind of a long one, so I'm going to make this brief. Don't forget all the links below. Give the video a big thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't. Everybody have a great day. Be nice to each other.